Created by Owen Dennis, Infinity Train uses its characters' actions to create queer allegories. These actions correlate to different experiences many queer people may have. Infinity Train takes place on a seemingly infinite train that is traveling through a desolate wasteland. Every car on the train presents a random environment that its passengers have to travel through. The passengers that the train picks up are people who have some sort of unresolved emotional issues or trauma, represented by a glowing green number on their hand. Each of the cars on the train presents puzzles for the passengers to help them confront their problems and resolve their issues, making their number go down. When a passenger's number reaches 0, a portal will open up and they are free to return home. The second season of the show follows the character Lake, a reflection of the previous season's protagonist, Tulip. Lake is accompanied by a passenger named Jessie and a deer with superpowers. We first meet Lake in Season 1 when Tulip finds herself in a train car full of mirrors. She has to work with Lake to help her escape the car, but she finds out that Lake has had her own personality the entire time but was forced to live Tulip's life. When Tulip helps Lake escape from the mirror world, she is chased down by the Mirror Police, or Flex, for breaking mirror law. Flex are able to chase down Lake by being able to jump out of anything with a reflective surface. Throughout Season 2 of the show, Dennis intentionally develops allegories through the characters' actions that are used to illustrate different queer experiences. I would like to note that not all queer people will experience some of these in their lives. Everyone's experience is different, and just because one hasn't experienced one of these doesn't make them not queer. With that being said, the topics I will be covering in this video are coming out, encountering bigotry, and transitioning. Coming out is a metaphor that is used to describe someone disclosing their sexual orientation or gender identity. Some queer individuals choose not to come out in fear of being rejected, legal repercussions, depending on the country, or the belief that it will not matter to others. Sometimes people disclose someone else's identity without their consent. This is outing, and it is mainly used for malicious intent to either dehumanize or harm queer people. There are some actions that the characters do in the show that can correlate to coming out or being outed. In Season 2, Episode 2, Lake first meets Jessie. She gets angry with him multiple times for wanting to join her on her journey through the train. She doesn't want to explain to Jessie that she used to be a reflection and that she has never had any personal experiences, so she lies and makes up a story.
Why are you so mad at me?
Look, it has nothing to do with you. It's just... Okay, so... I used to have this friend named Tulip, and we did everything together, but... As we grew up, I didn't have much in common with her anymore. But, my parents thought Tulip was perfect and wanted me to be exactly like her. So I had to stop hanging out with her so I could be free.
Upon being asked why Lake was so mad with Jessie, she opted to give a vague response. This is something that closeted people might do in response to a question being asked by someone they aren't out to relating to their true identity. Although the question Jessie asked wasn't directly related to Lake being a reflection, the answer she would have given Jessie would have involved telling him that she was a reflection. In Season 2, Episode 4, Jessie and Lake find themselves being chased by the Flex. Jessie has no idea why they are being chased, because Lake never tells him that she's a criminal of mirror law by being a reflection in the Prime world. They eventually get stuck in a car with the Flex just on the other side of the door that they entered through. Jessie doesn't find out why they are being chased until one of the Flex tells him that she is a fugitive and that she is hiding something from him, which creates conflict between the two. The Fleck eventually starts to try to manipulate Jessie into letting them jump out of his phone screen's reflection by saying,
Hey Jesse, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
That's great. I'm so glad you're safe.
You are?
We're not the bad guys, son. Look around. You're the hostage. We're trying to save you.
This eventually leads to Lake destroying Jessie's phone without notice. Jessie, visibly angry, pesters Lake asking her why she is acting the way she is and what she is hiding. She reluctantly tells Jessie about her origins as Tulip's reflection.
I probably should have told you what was going on earlier. It's true, what those Flex said. Technically, I am a criminal, but I didn't do anything wrong.
So, you are a reflection? Who are you a reflection of?
Remember that friend I told you about? Tulip? I used to reflect her, but I wanted to live my own life, make my own memories. That's against mirror law, and those Flex have been chasing me ever since.
Both the actions of the Fleck and Lake correspond to someone outing a queer person and a queer person coming out. The Fleck tells Jesse that Lake is hiding something with the intent of gaining trust of Jesse, breaking the trust between the two, and harming Lake. Because of this, Lake is forced to tell Jesse something about her identity that she didn't want him knowing initially. What the Flecks did here can be seen as bigotry. Encountering bigotry is something most queer people will experience at least once in their lives. A bigot is defined as someone who is unreasonably attached to a belief or opinion that is antagonistic towards a group of people based on their identity. Bigotry can manifest in various forms, such as hate speech, acts of violence, or discriminatory behavior. Towards the end of the second season, Lake and Jesse meet Grace and Simon. Grace and Simon are the leaders of a group on the train called the Apex. Their goals are to get their numbers as high as possible because to them, having a higher number is a sign of power. The Apex calls the denizens of the train nulls, believing that since they don't have numbers, they aren't real beings and don't have feelings.
She's a null.
A what?
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot that you don't know. Null, it means nothing. Not even a 0.
He doesn't seem to like it.
Nulls can't actually feel anything. They're not real.
In the episode, Grace lets the Flecks catch up to Lake using a mirror, letting them almost get a hold of her.
If you let the nulls take advantage of you, they will. You'll thank me for this later.
How nice to see you again, Sliver.
Bigots will do a similar sort of thing, denying the existence of queer people and selling them out to people in power who also oppose them. They rely on their moral beliefs to deny queer people, often citing traditional values as justification. The Apex denies the existence of denizens and uses their group's beliefs as a justification for harming them. Harming denizens will make their number go up. For most of the season, Lake is on the run from the Flecks who are trying to kill her for being her own self instead of staying a reflection, because it is against mirror law. Because she is running instead of conforming with mirror laws, the Flecks do everything in their power to make her conform or get her killed. In the before-mentioned scene with Lake and Jesse stuck in a train car, the Fleck attempts to manipulate Jesse into thinking that she's an enemy and shouldn't be trusted.
Hey, you okay in there, son? What's your name?
Jesse?
Nice to meet you, Jesse. I'm Steve. I'm a mirror officer of the peace. Jesse, do you know who she is? She's a dangerous extremist from our mirror world. She'll say anything to get what she wants. She did it to her prime, and she'll do it to you too.
Parallels can be drawn between the Flecks and right-wing politicians who create laws around criminalizing queer people for being themselves by making them look like a threat to society. These politicians create laws to try to get them to conform to societal norms, and to get people to vote on these laws by ingraining a sense of fear into the public. A prime example of this are state senators who create laws into banning hormone replacement therapy, or HRT. They get voters to vote on these laws by telling them that trans people are these wild extremists with severe mental problems, which simply is not the case. Another instance of this happening is the Lavender Scare. During the Cold War, the United States had reportedly fired over 400 government employees for allegations of being homosexual. The Lavender Scare was fueled by the fear that homosexuals were susceptible to blackmail and pose a security risk to the government. The Flecks do something similar, where they use their power to stop anyone who tries to live a different lifestyle than what is expected of a reflection, and tries to manipulate others into thinking that they are a risk to the passengers being able to get off of the train. The Flecks try stopping Lake from becoming herself in the Prime World. What Lake is doing could be seen as transitioning. Transitioning refers to the process that transgender people go through to align themselves with the gender that they identify as. Lake's actions closely resemble how a transgender person might socially transition. Socially transitioning is the process of transitioning that doesn't involve medical interventions. This includes changing one's clothing, hairstyle, name, pronouns, and overall appearance. When Tulip and Lake agree that they should go their separate ways, Lake starts to make changes to her appearance, shaving her head and wearing different clothes, among other things to differentiate herself from looking like Tulip. Throughout the season, Lake is referred to as MT, an acronym standing for Mirror Tulip. It is clear that she doesn't like the name because it implies that she is still a part of Tulip, but she lets people call her that anyways because she hasn't decided a name for herself.
So your name, MT? Does it stand for Mirror Tulip?
It's not my name. I'm just letting you call me that.
At the end of the season, Lake finally decides a name for herself.
Hi, I'm Nate.
Hi, Nate. I'm Lake.
Just like what trans people do when socially transitioning, Lake makes changes to her appearance to make her look more like herself and less like her prime, Tulip. Taking everything into account, Infinity Train stands out as a kids' TV show by incorporating queer allegories through the actions of its characters. Lake embodies queer experiences such as coming out and transitioning, while characters like The Flex, Simon, and Grace undertake actions that symbolize the struggles faced by queer people such as outing and encountering bigotry. So, next time you're watching a show or a movie, maybe look out for these things or pay attention to the actions and narratives of the characters. They might carry deeper symbolism or allegories that shed light on important social issues. Looking into these may just enhance your appreciation for them.